Track and field fans, supporters club members, you're the greatest track and field fans in the world. Thank you for joining us. LetsRun.com after dark. Robert Johnson here. We're across the street from a marijuana truck in Austin, Texas. We apologize for any music you hear. It's the reason why I'm wearing sunglasses, folks. Just kidding. Just kidding. We are across the street from a marijuana truck that is playing loud music. We apologize, but the show must go on. I'm joined by the great Jonathan Galt, a staff writer. We're going to be breaking down the 2023 NCAA Outdoor Championships. What a championship, John. Going into this, we were expecting to see what we saw today. Katelyn Tuohy times 2, Britton Wilson times 2. What a performance. 400 flat world record for Britton Wilson, and then she came back and broke Sydney McLaughlin's 400 hurdle world record.
Yeah, I know. Stunner, right?
Katelyn Tuohy, 3:58 to beat Jenny Simpson's record, and then I couldn't believe it when she ran 13:59 in the 5,000. Oh, wait, none of that happened, folks. Today, Katelyn Tuohy's dream of the double ends. She does not win the 1,500. She boldly goes for gold, though, fades, and then doesn't run the 5,000. I'm sure she's being blasted on the boards for that. I will defend her. Britton Wilson doesn't win the 400 and doesn't win the 400 hurdles. We'll break that down and much more. Who's the biggest winner at NCAAs this year? Will Sumner. Who's the biggest loser? Is it Katelyn Tuohy? We'll break that down as well. Thank you for joining us, folks. If you're a sports club member, you know you're the best track and field fan. If you're up at 1 a.m. listening to this show, you're a pretty good track and field fan as well. So join the supporters club. Go to letsrun.com/subscribe today so you don't have to stay up till 1. This will be in your podcast feed when you wake up. John, NCAAs are always fun. It's over. Should we start with today? Is that the best way to do it? What do you think we should do?
I think we should start with Tuohy and Wilson, because going in, if I said one of these two things is going to happen, they're going to win combine to win 0 NCAA titles, or they're going to combine to win 4 NCAA titles. I think we both would have picked 4, right, Robert? And just for the people watching online, the camera angle here is misleading. We're kind of making do with what we have. It looks as if Robert is just this big, strong man. He's tall. Robert's not taller than me in real life. I am taller than him. I don't know about weight-wise, but just so that everyone there has the proper perspective of what's going on. But yeah, if I said 4 or 0, what's going to happen? You would have said 4, right?
I'm not sure about that. Probably. I mean, I just assume Wilson was definitely going to win. That's why I like to have these polls and these predictions beforehand, because after the fact, it's really hard to think about what were you thinking ahead of time. So let's talk to. I mean, yes, I thought.
Well, Robert, I ran a poll on my Twitter account before the meet, and my question, I gave people 4 options. I said, who does the double? Tuohy, Wilson, both, or neither? And it was actually pretty evenly spread by the end. I'm not sure if people were getting in late votes once they already knew the outcome, but it ended up 22% thought Tuohy would do the double and not Wilson. 27% thought Wilson would do it, not Tuohy. 23% said both. 28% said neither. I think there's a lot of latecomers, though, who were hopping in on neither once that was already apparent. Because when I started the meet, that was the least popular option, I think.
So what was the most common beforehand?
I think it was Tuohy, which I thought was ridiculous. The way I saw this, I was like, there is no way Britton Wilson is losing the 400 hurdles. She's clearly the best 400 hurdler in the country. I knew that Rashida Adeleke from Texas, she'd been running really well. You knew she could run in the 49s in the final. It was going to take a pretty good run from Britton Wilson. But I think a lot of us, based on what she'd done throughout the regular season, based on how good she looked in the prelims, thought Britton Wilson might be able to go 48s. And yeah, I don't know whether it was a shin issue she's been dealing with it the whole season or what, but Britton Wilson was not her incredible self in the 400. And then that race clearly took something out of her because she wasn't close to her best in the 400 hurdles. And it was only 25 minutes apart. So, of course, that's going to be tough.
Well, on the podcast last week, I didn't do the research. I thought Britton Wilson was going to double, and I said Tuohy wouldn't because I didn't realize that there was any doubt in the 400. And then I thought, well, she's double back at regionals. She'll be able to double back here, but no. But let's talk about Tuohy. Let's talk about the 1500. So before the race started, I said she's not going to win the 1500. And why did I say that? It's because I trust your opinion on track and field, John. Not going to lie. Been in Austin for 4 days. My mom and dad are here. They live here. My wife came in. My son came in. Been busy during the day. So I was getting to the track a little bit late on the prelim day, and I thought I might miss the 1500. Had the opportunity to wine and dine with an NCAA runner-up, John, trying to build bonds with the young kids. Long story. We'll probably get into it eventually, but my mom and dad's best friends.
Robert wasn't in the meet. This is the situation, all right?
Yes. But anyways, is the step-grandparent of an NCAA runner-up. Anyways, I was not at the meet. And it was clear that you thought Tuohy didn't look good in the 1500 prelims. And then just the more I thought about it, it's the same thing I have about, like, my fear about Ingebrigtsen in the 1500. Like, okay, like, well, Ingebrigtsen clearly is a miler because he's the Olympic champion. But Tuohy, it's the same concept of, like, how fast are you? If you've got to lead the whole thing, you've got to be way faster than everybody else, 2 or 3 seconds faster than everybody else. And Tuohy is not 2 or 3 seconds faster than everybody else this year. So you said she didn't look good. We've been hearing a lot about the Oklahoma State freshman, I believe, from Kenya, who's got really good wheels.
Bilajeb Karui, who was, I believe, 4th in this race, but she closed her prelim 2:05, her last 800. She ran 61:0 last lap. Like, I saw that. I was like, oh my God, if this is a tactical race, like, there's no way Katelyn Tuohy could. I didn't think there was any way Katelyn Tuohy could do that. So her strategy is she has to make it fast, like you said. And unless you're way, way better than everyone else, which the 2023 Katelyn Tuohy, I don't think is. Like, maybe 2022, the one that ran 4:06 solo at ACCs, maybe that one might have been able to win this race. But not today, and certainly not with the wind, which is about 10 miles an hour race time as well.
Yeah, so I start the thread on the meet, and I'm like, she's not going to win the 15. And then I'm like, do I think she's going to win the 5? And I'm like, no, I don't. Because when I used to coach, it's so much harder to double back on the same day. When you're racing someone like Parker Valby, who, gave Tuohy a pretty good run. Oops, I don't want the tracking. Sorry. Parker Valby gave her a pretty good run in cross country, a pretty good run last year. I'm like, she's not that much better to her that she can beat her, tired. So, but the gun goes off, or right before the gun goes off, it was very windy. My son was trying to fly a kite all day. We were trying to get the kite up. And there was a stiff wind into their face. So all the spreads are going to be drastically wind aided. It was 10 miles per hour, gusting higher. But when you start the 1500, you're running into the wind. So I'm like, this is going to make it even harder to front run. But the gun goes off. Tuohy looked on. Another thing that made me worried was I didn't even watch the 1500 prelims, but how she said I didn't have a good start. Like, I'm like, the start shouldn't matter. Like, what are you talking about? But I was watching the start, John. She looked intent on getting out hard. And we talked to someone after the race. Someone on YouTube, check it out. Time her from 100 to 300. They claimed the first 100 was, not that fast. And then she blasted a 30 from 100 to 300. I don't think it was quite that fast. But basically, really quickly, she takes off and is going for it. And we were watching this together, John, and we just said, right? I mean,
that's what you have to do. In her situation, I guess the only thing – you have to front run it. The question is, do you front run the whole thing, or do you go with a K to go or 900 to go? And I think that the interesting thing with the wind is, if you can kind of get a gap on everyone early, then the wind kind of becomes your friend, because then someone is going to have to bridge that gap against the wind. And she was able to get a gap by 800 meters, but I think she got a little overexcited that first 400. She ran, 64, 65, which – like, I don't think there was really any scenario where she was going to be able to break the whole field based on where she's at right now. But I think she went out a little quick. Like, maybe in retrospect, you attack a little later in the race. But I can't really fault her very much. She knew it was going to be tough. She knew she had to go from the front at some point. She laid it out there. She gave it her best, and she wasn't able to break it. And it's hard to do.
what I said was when she went for it, we both just said, this is baller, utmost respect. So I'm not going to sit here now and say, whatever, moron. I respect her. Like, she could have run the 10, and I assume she would have won that easily. Maybe not. Maybe she's not top of her game. We'll talk about that in a minute. But she went for it in the 1500, and then she tried to just front run it. And you got to respect it. It doesn't work out, whatever. So it wasn't that fast. She went 47.9. I mean, for flat pace is 64s the whole way. So, but then and she and like two girls went with her. But then the second lap was only a 67, and then a 68, and then she only closed in 67 going home. But three girls got ahead. So I was like, okay, the chase pack is also going to have to break the wind. But, she just ultimately got caught in the home stretch and sort of run down by a lot of people. In hindsight now, as a coach, it's all like, oh, she should have done something else. What I would say is maybe wait till 200 meters to pick it up and just gradually wind it down. So this coach that we talked to, he literally thought that she ran top coach, professional coach, between 100 and 330 seconds. He's like, yeah, that was too fast. And I do agree. You want to kind of normally you'd say you gradually wind it down, but going super fast might just break them in the wind. So if nobody goes with her, maybe it's kind of interesting.
I just think she was kind of in a very tough situation.
But you either wait till like 200 to go or 600 to go and squeeze it down the last 900. I would have used the wind to help propel me. But anyways, she doesn't win.
Should we haven't mentioned the name of the 1500 meter champion. We're more than 10 minutes into the podcast. We have not said Maya Ramsden-Apartment's name. What a weekend for her. She comes in. I mean, she's been dominating the Ivy League level this year. But and nationally, she was top 5 in the mile indoors, so she was pretty good. But I don't think any of us predicted her to win this race. Part of it was she wasn't one of those women who ran crazy fast in the West Prelim where all these people ran 4:08. But she comes into this meet. She runs a PR in the semifinals of 4:09. And then tonight, she runs a PR of 4:08 in the final to get the victory. And she was moving the best. Like when she moved up sort of that last 200 and started kicking, I was like, she's moving faster than everyone else. She didn't have the best position, which, I kind of like to think is somewhat important sometimes in these races. But I was like, no, she looks the best. She's going to close it off. She held everyone off. It was super impressive by Maya Ramsden. Deserved national champion. You're going to try to pitch some narrative that somehow she won this race, even though she doesn't have a kick, because for the one random 800 she ran this year, it was only 2:09. Is that your position, Robert? Or do you think this woman who just held off everyone in the NCAA actually might be able to close?
Well, it's kind of interesting because we're saying here at the start of the show, Tuohy's not super speedy. She has no, she's not an 8:15 girl. She's a 10,000 woman. She's got to go hard. She doesn't have a lot of speed. She wins. I would say the same thing in Maya Ramsden. I think she's got a 2:09 800 PB. She never really runs 800 things from 2022.
Just for the record, she's run 0 800s this year. Her 1 800 last year was 209.99 in a meet against Yale.
Harvard-Yale meet. She finished third, but the winning time was only 2:09. But today she actually closed in 2:10.81 with a 63.27. I mean, her last lap was significantly better than anyone else in the race. So it's ironic that someone without a lot of speed won the race. Maybe Tuohy should have just done what she did and run people down. But I just don't think it was Tuohy's day. We're going to get to that in a minute. Ramsden ran great. I talked to Coach Gibby of Harvard. Great meet for him, by the way. Graham Blanks got second in the 5,000. And Maya credited Graham a lot. He said, I practice every day with this guy. He gets second. Why can't I do well? But she said that Coach Gibby and her talked before the race a little bit about, like, what's too fast? Like, you don't want to go out too fast. 800, what's going to feel comfortable? You want to feel somewhat comfortable. And the number she said was 212 and 213. That's actually what Tuohy ended up hitting. Was like 212 or 213. Ramsden was like 215, 216, but it was windy. And she's like, she just focused on her race, and then they happen to catch up to the pack, and instincts take over, and she wins it. And Gibby said, look, he's like, Tuohy's speedy, my girl's speedy, just because you're not 15, you're not 815 doesn't mean you're not speedy and you can't win races. I mean, Jakob Ingebrigtsen wins a lot of 1500s. So that's it. I thought Olivia Howe, the indoor champ, might win. She tried to go with Tuohy. So the three people that went out hard were Tuohy, Howe, and Thornton Bott of Oregon. I think in hindsight, if Howe or Thornton Bott of Oregon, Thornton Bott ended up second. If they had stayed back, they might have won the race.
They might have, but Izzy Thornton Bott was really pumped about her result. Like she had family fly in. Her mom was here from Australia. Her grandparents were here from the UK. So, and then she was FaceTiming with her family back in Australia before she came to the mix. So she was just so emotional. She was like, I can't believe I got second in the NCAA. So, and she essentially was like, look, this is a big stage. I was just going to go for it. You know, I didn't want to have any regrets. So she went out. It was, you know, like you said, hindsight's 2020, Robert. Now we know how the race played out. Would backing off a little bit maybe have helped her? Yeah, maybe, but she still got second in the NCAA. This was like the best race of her life. So I think pretty good job for Oregon and first-year coach Shalane Flanagan, 2-4 in this race, Robert.
Well, hey, everyone who hates on Jerry Schumacher, the women were on the podium. They were fourth. I don't know who gets credit for that, Jerry Shalane or the previous coach. But by the way, folks, this is officially confirmed. BYU is not the only school that uses overage runners. John told me that Izzy Thornton Bott is 25 years of age. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And she has more eligibility. So I know, but it's pumped. It's great.
Overage is an inaccurate term. You can just call them old. Like they're allowed to be in the NCAA. They're eligible to compete. But 25, that is the age of a seventh-year senior.
Correct. If you're closer in age to yours truly than you are to a newborn, you're too old. You should not be in college. I'm not going to reveal my exact age, but that's just the fact. So, anyways, it was kind of just a crazy race. Props to Tuohy for going for it. Now that I criticize – actually, it reminds me when I coached at Cornell. Like, I was telling Jonathan Galt, like, when do you see someone just lead a 1,500 from start to finish? I guess Matthew Shintowitz in 2016, but that was a slow one. And it's hard to blast it from the front. I think even if you're not a speed demon, you should probably wait for a lap before trying to just squeeze it down. But the real thing I want to say is we get to the race later in the day, and we see Britton Wilson. You know, she's been battling shin splints. By the way, Arkansas, I mean, those people are into the team. And some people can say Lance Harder abuses them. I mean, indoors we had the DMR woman. Help me out, John, with her name.
In Arkansas? Oh, Lauren Gregory.
Lauren Gregory basically gave up her outdoor season and got injured to win them the T title. And with Britton Wilson, she said, I have a stress reaction in my foot. I've had it all year. In my shin, you know, she wasn't herself. But
I don't think that was about the team, though, Robert. I mean, she talked to her sprint coach, Chris Johnson, and I think it was basically her call to decide what she wanted to do in NCAA. She wanted to do this double to challenge herself. And it wasn't about trying to contend for the team title because Texas was going to win regardless. She wanted to try something.
Which is great. And if I'm a shoe exec, I'm like, this is one of the most talented track athletes in the world. I don't care. Now we get to Tuohy. She doesn't run the 5. And, you know, your first instinct is that's weak.
That's not my first instinct. My first instinct is she just got run down. She was totally out of gas that last 100 meters in the 1,500. Now you want to have her come back and run in 90-degree temps with a 71 dew point in a 5K. I mean, she's probably exhausted at that point. Like, if she thinks she's just going to get – if she isn't confident that she can contend for the win, I don't see the point of running her out there just to get 5th or 6th. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. My first instinct was, oh, no, she's not running lame. That's what I thought. But as a coach, former coach – someone understands it. I am 100% behind this decision. Like, she wasn't going to do well. I was talking to Kevin Sully at Full Track. He's like, when Britton Wilson didn't well, he's like, this is what's going to happen to you. Like, when it's not your day and you're not feeling great, it's not your day. And you run her into the ground. But what's interesting here is I'm going to reveal a tidbit. You know, I always think, why did I spend thousands of dollars to come out here, pay for John's hotels and Ubers and rental cars? Did we learn anything from being here that we wouldn't learn from home? And yes, I bumped into a top coach in the NCAA, and their theory, or they said that wasn't Tuohy. They said they had talked to Lori Hennis, and Lori Hennis is like, Tuohy hasn't really been herself for several weeks, and just hasn't been, you know. And it can be one of these things where, like, sometimes when you're coaching, it's like not obvious. Like, you're getting close to your workouts, But it's just not like you can kind of force your workouts. I mean, I've told the story about Rich Canal, the head of the Atlantic Track Club. Like when he made the Olympics, he did terrible. This is a guy who medaled in '97 Worlds. He gets the 2000 Olympics. He's like, I ran the same workouts I did in '97. I ran them faster in Australia than I did in '97, but I bombed because he knew what he did. He was just kind of forcing it. So I don't know. Like after the 1500, like if Tuohy's workouts haven't been great, she says did we reveal the statement? You read the statement. She didn't feel good. Just bag it. You're not going to put her in the hole. Don't put her in the grave. She's a great runner. She's a great future.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I have no issue with her scratching this at all. I also commend her for even entering both events and qualifying to nationals in both, which, by the way, Maya Ramsden did. Maya Ramsden also ran the 5K and finished. She was pretty far down the pack in the 5K, but she qualified for nationals in both events. So props to her. But Tuohy could have very easily just said, I'm just going to do the 5K. I'm going to show up, try to win it. I think even this version of Tuohy, I think, still probably wins the 5K tonight if she's running fresh. But, we'll never totally know about that. But the 1500, this was a new challenge for her. I'm glad she took it on, and she learned, she's still got some improvements to make. But the thing about this, Robert.
John, last year, it just wasn't peak Tuohy. Like,
no.
Last year she ran 406. This year she goes to Wake Forest. She goes out. Apparently she went out super hard there, tried to run 4 flat, runs 408. It's just, she's good, but she's not on top of her game right now.
Well, you got to think about this, Robert. She ran a great cross-country season, ran a terrific race to be the terrific athlete back in November, Parker Valby at NCAAs in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Then she's running really fast basically the whole indoor season. She runs the collegiate record in the mile, 4:24. Then she goes to Millrose. She gets the collegiate record on the 3K, 8:35. Then she goes to Albuquerque, doubles indoors in the 3K and 5K, wins both of them. So that's a lot of high-quality racing. Then she shows up. She's going for the sub-15, the collegiate record in the 5K. She comes a little short of the sub-15, but she runs 15:03. And even then, she was kind of saying, this is not what I wanted. She's kind of hinting something might have been wrong.
But that's a good example. Like, we should have realized then, this woman should be blasting. Like, with the new shoes, Katelyn Tuohy should be blasting 15 minutes.
Right. Based on what she did indoors, you would say, okay, if she's still in that kind of shape, yes, she should be sub-15 shape. But she wasn't. She's still really good because she's Katelyn Tuohy, but it wasn't sub-15. And I think you get to June, she's been racing at a high level for half the year, and there's a lot of expectations. She's got this NIL deal. It's the end of the school year. There's going to be pressure. Is she turning pro? What's she going to do this summer? Like, that's a lot to deal with for a woman who's still 21 years old. So I don't think, like, that sort of stress and, like, is she going to turn pro? Do I need to run these results to get a good pro deal? Is my contract worth going to go down if I bump this meet?
We did bump into some agents, and they thought her value did go down. To me, this is ridiculous. Like, Katelyn Tuohy has a following. I can tell. Hey, she would come in and talk to me. Like, go look at the analytics. Any video we put up, people know she's a brand. So she's got more than, even if she doesn't run great, she'll still be a brand. But yes, the debate with Tuohy is, even if she went pro right now, as good as she's in the NCAA, and it's any woman in the NCAA on the distance side, you're so far from being at the gold medal level if the very top 2 or 3 women show up in your event. Like,
but that's an impossible standard for women's distance run. I mean, no American woman has ever medaled in the 5K. That's the standard.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But is she at 15 or 5K? If she goes to the 15, maybe she can medal. 5,000, no American woman's ever medaled. So that's kind of the point. But someone I was talking to was like, yeah, her value went down, and I would have been pissed off by her decision, like her attitude by not running the 5. And I'm like, you want to bury her and put her in the hole? I think it's a great move. Roy Henderson deserves credit for not putting her in the 5. It would have been a disaster. And I personally am a big fan of the college system. I don't believe in, going pro when you should, but I think her value is at peak in probably indoors. But if she wants to go back, she should go back to cross. There was a big theory that she would go back to cross and then go pro for the Olympic year. If she goes back for track next year, I really think I would skip indoors. Go to flag or whatever, train at altitude, and then I would run the 1,500 only at NCAAs.
I mean, hey, you could skip outdoors. Bro, we've seen this before with some of the best athletes. If they want to put all their eggs into making the Olympics, we say forget it. Don't even worry about trying to run.
What's the point of being in college then? Just get paid then.
Well, I guess you could, yeah.
But Man, we don't know like the logistics of how much lower is her NIL deal than a real deal, etc. I would do whatever she wants, but
it does sound like for now she will be going back for cross country this fall, but it's not 100% confirmed.
If she loves college or whatever, she's been doing great. Keep doing it. And I don't want to compare like me winning being a part of 8 Ivy League championships at Cornell to her, but it got to us at Cornell when you're winning every year. It was very tough. Like, if we didn't win, it was a disaster. All we could do was disappoint. So it's the same in that same situation. It's a tough place to be. But and that's like Maya Ramsden did win today, and credit goes to her. By the way, she's an interesting story. She's a Kiwi. We probably have a lot of Kiwis and Australians watching right now because it's like 3 p.m. there. So everyone from down under, we love you. But she's a Kiwi who went to high school in Ethiopia.
She speaks with an American accent.
Yeah, I think someone's from American in that family.
Oh, I was getting thrown off.
Oh, no.
Izzy Thornton-Bott speaks with a British accent, even though she's Australian. Maya Ramsden is New Zealand, but she speaks with an American accent, but she went to high school in Ethiopia.
There may be no Americans for Ramsden. I used to know it all, but it's too late. I'm old. But maybe then she was at international school. She got the American accent. I don't know. But
all right, Robert.
No, but what I'm saying is
25 minutes on this meet. We race. We need to talk about the rest.
And
I
thought the whole show would be 30 minutes, but I got to go an hour today, John. But I thought Ramsden, there's a difference between running a race when if you don't win, it's a disaster. Tuohy just blasted it. Ramsden is probably similar, more 15.5 woman than 8.15. Ends up winning it, but she doesn't for her third would have been good. You know what I'm saying? But it kind of just proves you should just run your own race always, and then if that's good enough, you're going to win. So enough 1,500-meter talk. Britton Wilson, we talked about that, but
we didn't really talk about it. I mean,
we don't even talk about Wilson. 5,000 today. Parker Valby, just baller. Credit to her. We've had the Valby Tuohy message board debate. People are a Valby fan or a Tuohy fan. I think it's great. It's like Auburn or Alabama. You pick a side, but this is an amazing story. This is a woman who last year showed up at SEC Outdoors, had run all year, wins the meet for Florida, battles Tuohy, gets second, battles Tuohy in cross country, almost wins and gets second. And then she's always injured. Oh, by the way, Chris Zielinski, her coach, leaves. Everyone's like, Zielinski did everything for her. They get a new coach.
Who said Zielinski did everything for her?
Lots of people. I think it's amazing. She's injured. She doesn't quit. You keep her in it. She barely runs. She runs 3 or 4 days a week, and she gets second in the country. I think it's a fantastic job of coaching. But she gets a new coach, Will Palmer, and she just wins the NCAA title. And it was fascinating talking to her afterwards. She's like, it's been very difficult, very difficult. A lot of ups and downs, since the coaching changed and everything. I'm like, you did just win. I mean, it was kind of shocking, but she's not fully healthy. She has some undiagnosed thing, and she still wins the NCAA title. And she won in a way that would make Steve Prefontaine proud. I mean, just goes to the front and just pushes. She did what Tuohy wanted to do, the 1,500, and she pulled it off in the 5,000. And it looked like she was going to win to me, John, when 2 miles. But then I'm like, wait, she's not far enough ahead. Evelyn Kimboy of Utah Valley's got a sick kick. You better watch out. And then she just got far enough ahead that she won. So great to see for Valby. Fantastic for her. And this proves to me there's a lot of good coaches out there, but the coach is the jockey. The athlete is the horse. Amazing job.
Yeah, Robert, can you pass me one of those Modelos? I will share my thoughts on Parker Valby. Because, look, going into this race, I think everyone knew if she was going to win, that's how she has to do it. We know Parker Valby isn't a big kicker. She did this in NCAA cross country. She did this in the NCAA 5K last year. We know Evelyn Kimboy, who won the 10K, is a kicker. So if she's going to win, she would have to go from the front. And let's remember, conditions, 89, 90 degrees, 71 dew point. A little breezy, but it's still not easy to run. But Valby, she trains in Gainesville, so she is kind of used to this. And she goes out, and I'm just like, man, this is so impressive. Did she lead the whole way, every single step of that race, Robert? I didn't see the very, very start, but I don't remember a point where Parker Valby was not in the lead. Oh, I'm seeing here Chloe Scrimgeour had the lead at 200 meters according to Flash results, but 600 on, it's just Parker Valby all the way down. Yeah, I mean, 15:30 solo in these conditions, when your PB is 15:20, that's a fantastic run for Parker Valby. Well-deserved NCAA champion. Congratulations to her.
Well deserved. Now, it was interesting. The Alabama women didn't do the 5,000. They weren't entered because they pushed Valby. It was a very close race at SECs, but this was just a fantastic result. It's so hard to win the NCAAs, so congrats to you, Parker. But other events today, let's talk about the women, then we can move back to the men. I mean, obviously, Julian Alfred was amazing in the sprints. They were wind-aided times, but like Britton Wilson, Katelyn Tuohy, like which one's going to win the Bowerman for the sort of the Heisman Trophy of track and field? It's got to go to Alfred now after this performance, I think.
Yeah, especially considering indoors, she's breaking the 60 meters collegiate record pretty much every week she competes. Then wins the 200 and the 60 indoors. Today, wins the 4x1, wins the 100, 10.72 wind-aided, and then wins the 200, 21.73 wind-aided. She would have had a shot. I mean, I think the 200, if it was wind legal, she might have been able to get that. I mean, they're both very borderline, but these are like all-time great collegiate performances. And guess what? It was also her 22nd birthday. So happy birthday, Julian Alfred, 3-time NCAA champion. And I'm fairly confident she will be your Bowerman winner in December. And she's one of the best sprinters in the world right now.
But by the way, World Athletics going to get back to us. Like, she was one of the people DQ'd last year for a false start, like Devin Allen. I still don't believe they all false started the semifinals. There's something wrong there.
She talked about that in the mix. Well, she didn't go into detail, but she was just basically like, she still had a sour taste in her mouth about how the 2022 Worlds unfolded. And I think going into 2023, she's going to be a factor. I mean, it's tough to keep it going as a collegian when you're running fast indoors. She hit the indoor season hard. Very few pro sprinters will do that. But she's got talent to be a factor, if not this year, then next year in the Olympic year.
But Julian, you need to go pro. Just go pro right now. Don't ever run a race until you're getting paid. I don't normally say that, but what else is she able to achieve now? So, all right. Other events today, 800 was a much anticipated race, and Michaela Rose. If you could merge Jonathan Goltz and I's bodies and brains together, we would just be the perfect human being. Because John got so much right, like his expertise. Like, it's hard to preview all these events, and we had Paris going on and blah blah blah, and a couple predictions. John's like, "Why'd you pick this person? This person's going to win." And like, they did win. Like what? You basically predicted the entire meet, right, John?
No, that's not totally true. Because for some reason, I went with Navasky Anderson instead of Will Sumner, who's a generational talent. But yesterday I tweeted out my pre-meet picks. I had 3 or 4. I don't know if you saw this, Robert. I'm going to do a little bragging here. In my men's 1500 preview, I was talking about Nathan Green, and I said, if you can close in 51 in a 3:42 race, you're not losing. And do you realize what he did in the final? It was a 3:42 race. He closed to 51, and I predicted him to win.
That's why when I came back from the dinner with the NCAA runner-up, I can't say their name. I'll say them when they join the podcast. But I promise this person, you're not coming on the podcast till you win an NCAA title. But I forgot my train of thought. Was everybody not?
You were saying I was brilliant with my well, one of the other ones was like Olivia Markasic in the steeple today. We looked at the races, and she was second in 3K indoors, and she's beating Werner's for much better than anyone she's facing in the steeple. So I'm like, why isn't she going to win the steeple? Of course she's going to win the steeple, which she did. Michaela Rose, I don't think going into the meet. Actually, I think we probably would have picked to go.
No, I did pick her.
Yeah, and then I was like, you're right.
No, but you said to me, you said, Robert, yeah. So I was like, look, she ran 159.08, but she blew up. I thought the split was 125. She's like, no, it's 127, but she got beat by Nikki Hills at the line. But this woman is super talented, and I just love this race. Like, she told us I just loved it because she told us after the first round, I want to break out thinking most collegiate record, 157.7. And I said when I made my predictions, I said I expected 158. At 157 wouldn't shock me. And did I say 156 might even be possible? Anyways, it's windy. I'm like, what's she going to do? She's going to go for it. And I thought it was really interesting. Like, Rosine Willis, she went with it too. This is the world junior champion. This is the NCAA indoor champion. So indoors, Rose ran a great race into the final straight, and then there was three-way battle. Rose really tied up the last 50 and got third, but Willis was right on her, John. I mean, right on her, a little bit closer than I normally. I was like, wow, it's windy. Is it because it's windy? I mean, she was just like glued as a magnet until 400. And then I was like looking at the split to write down on my note card to see what the actual 400 split was.
58-47 for Rose, 58-61 for Willis.
I typed that down, I write that down. I look up, and Rose is like 2 or 3 meters ahead of us. And I'm like, what happened? Talked to her after the race. She's like, my game plan was to put in a surge right after the bell. She's like, there's a natural tendency to slow down always right there. That was fascinating. I never knew that.
No, yeah, that's great.
Because it worked, and and then she got the lead. But when they got to even coming off the final turn, 600, 700, I'm like, she's tying up. She's slowing down. 600 was not that fast. And then I'm like, they're not that far behind. But this is the classic 800. It's like, oops, John, it just put its face over here. Sorry,
Camera loves me. What can I say? Yeah, no, she starts tying up. And, I mean, the woman who was closing the fastest of anyone, Robert, was the eventual runner-up, Gavia Galvadit of Oklahoma State. She had the fastest last lap, 60.59. Rose was 61.37. I was watching it, and I was just like, Rose had, the thing is, she had that gap, and she was still fighting. It's not like she was, totally done. But she was starting to feel it, as you do when you're running. You go out 58 and you're trying to run faster. And Galvadit, she was 0.6 of a second back by the finish line. She closed really well, but Rose's strategy ended up being enough to win. She runs 158, 59.8. I think she probably would have preferred still conditions. I think she would have run faster in still conditions. But the bottom line is she got this done. So congrats to her. She's an NCAA champion.
I just thought it was wonderful. And we got a lot of talent in the 800 in college right now. Because with Super Shoes, we haven't seen them really drop the 800 times a lot. Like these other events, yes. 800, very little.
I mean,
and
Rose has run 159.0. I mean, that's
and these women are running well. And I think she's much faster than 159.0. So Galvadit was very happy with the second. She loves Dave Smith, the coach. Check it out on YouTube. Talk to Claire Seymour. What was disturbing to me was I didn't talk to Rose and Willis, but you did, John. And she said she's in a very, very dark place.
Well, I don't know if she said very, very dark place, but she said it was in a dark place at the moment. And that she admitted she's had some mental and physical struggles this year. And I think that's something that we kind of underrate is that remember, Robert, like you said, she's a world under-20 champion. She's had the spotlight on her. This is a girl who, when she was a freshman in high school, beat Athing Mu. Right after Athing Mu won the U.S. national title in the 600 meters. So Rasheem Willis, she's been on the scene for a while. People, after every race, they want to talk to her. Rasheem goes to college. She wins the NCAA indoor title as a true freshman and helps on the DMR, which Stanford also won. When you're that good, the expectation from the outside is, why isn't she winning every race? She should be winning. She should be progressing. You're at Stanford. It's a campus full of high achievers. It's a lot of stuff to put on a girl who is 19 years old. And I totally can understand how that can get to you. Even if you're running well, people might be thinking, oh, she doesn't have the fastest time. She's not faster than Michaela Rose is out this season outdoors. What's wrong with her?
No, that's the problem Tuohy's facing. It's like the expectations are unrealistic. Like, it's weird that she's in a dark place because why? You won NCAA indoors. You're the world junior champion. You're doing great. You're doing amazing. But it's just
we can't know what's going on in her personal life, Robert. There might be other stuff off the track that she's dealing with.
Correct.
She's away. She's from Wisconsin. She's a long way from home. Her family's halfway across the country. We forget about these people. They're real people. This is an 18-year-old, 19-year-old making a major life transition.
That's why I said
we just assume she should continue to be running better because now she's got Juliet Whitaker and this, she's an elite program.
I used to say this to every incoming freshman at Cornell. I used to say, I don't know. I'll design the work. Well, John Kellogg will design the workouts. I will give them to you. And they're based on a physiological thing. This is the best workout you should be doing. But I said, ultimately, you and I have to be co-coaches. We don't know. I don't know what's going on in your life. I don't know that you got a physics test tomorrow and you stayed up late. I don't know that your grandmother's sick. I don't know that your parents are getting divorced. I might know something like that. But your boyfriend cheated on you. Like, I don't know this stuff. So you need to tell me. I hate freshman year of college. And any parent out there, any freshman that's struggling, I would say try it and go back second sophomore year. Sage Canada, he's now a YouTube guy, ultra marathoner. He hated it freshman year and he went back sophomore year and was very proud that he did. So stick in there, Rosine. You're a great talent. You've had a great freshman year. Be proud of yourself. But that when you told me that just made me sad, like as a parent, and I just, wish her best. And I would give the Stanford coaches credit because they didn't have her run a lot of 8s outdoors. She was doing the 4 and the 15. I felt like they were trying to keep her out of the 8 because the expectations are so high. So I think they tried a good job for her, but tough race for her. And it wasn't, 2.5.9. Wait, a bad race, 2.5.91. You're 4th in the NCAA.
As a true freshman, yeah.
Hey, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
Also, I'm excited to see now Michaela Rose add herself to the mix for Team USA in the 800 this year because we got 4 spots. We know Thingmo is on the team, but Raven Rogers, RJ Wilson. Raven Rogers hasn't been really setting the world on fire this year outdoors. RJ Wilson, I think, probably will be on the team. She's in good enough shape and she's been getting it done. But I think the battle for spots 2 and 3, it's going to be really interesting. And Michaela Rose is firmly in that conversation.
Yeah. Interesting meet. Like Stanford men had a fantastic meet. Guy Robinson, we'll talk about him. The 200 guy, someone said like he had a lot of expectations last year. Who's this 200 guy, John?
Udodi Nwuzurike. I'm sorry if I'm butchering his last name. It's quite long.
It's a very common born and raised in Michigan name, John. But anyways, so that was Rose really. It was great to see her win because I think she's a big talent. Ball-based especially. Everyone, Kimboy, I love this story. We haven't really talked about this. This is a young lady who came over to America, expecting to go to UTEP. She gets here, apparently. They say they don't have a scholarship. I'd love to know the actual details of that. She goes to El Paso Community College, wins the junior college crown, gets second the second year in cross country, and then is smart and realizes, I don't have to go to UTEP. Goes to Arizona, COVID hits. Her dad apparently is sick in Kenya, and she was scared. She's like, I don't want to get sick like my dad. She didn't want to run. They're like, if you don't run, your scholarship's stripped. So she's got 1 month to find a new school that'll take her. Utah Valley, thank you. Because she just won an NCAA title for you. She got second tonight in the 5,000.
Yeah, 18 points for Utah Valley. That probably puts them decently high up in the team scores with just one person.
It was a cool story. She was like, and then I was reading she wanted to be a nurse like her sister, but the transfers didn't credit. But she's homesick. She wants to go home. I was talking to an agent. They're like, look, she'd make more if she stayed here. But I feel like America should not take everyone that's good from Africa and just let them have them live here. Yes, there's more money. I think it's great when some people want to go home and try to change the homeland. So good luck to you. She's got a great kick. John, that was the one where I'm like, John knows his shit. John's like, of course she was going to win. Did you look at a regional split? Like, she was closing regional races in like 65.
This isn't like you're giving me too much credit.
No, John.
I didn't watch her regional races, but what I do think is important is if you look at the splits, this woman is kicking in a 65 in a race she has no reason to be kicking in. I was like, okay, there are either 2 reasons for this. She's totally stupid, or this is easy for her. And I was like, this is easy for her. Why, if she's kicking in, and she was running fast in regionals too. So if she's running a fast time and she kicks in 65, who's beating her?
I'm giving you too much credit, John. You're looking at the splits from a goddamn regional 10,000.
Like, is that what you would do?
John, my wife bows down to you. I will. John, we have a service member. I don't know if it's a male or female. Chris, Lieutenant Colonel Chris. Oh, is that kiss my ass? Or is that a joke? I'm not sure.
It could be a joke, Robin. If your real name is Chris my ass, I feel I don't want to joke about it, but it certainly could be
on
a
YouTube,
joke,
they're saying I love the banter chaps. We had a top agent say they love the banter. John's like my.
Did we? At this meet? Or
told me. I don't know if he told you. I can't remember the name. Very famous person with a famous brother.
Okay. I can't think of that off the top of my head right now.
You can't? But you must be.
I'm too busy in, Robert. This Modelo Tallboy is doing a number on me. That's more banter for you, Mr. Famous Agent.
Okay.
All right. Let's talk about the men's side of this, Robert.
Thank you.
I know tonight was ladies' night, but we had this whole men's thing. They haven't
biggest
gone on
winners,
big full summit.
Biggest losers. The biggest winners of this NCAA meet, without a doubt.
Will Sumner.
Oh, my God. I mean, not without 800 and up. Was Wilson. Well, probably helped me, actually. Will Sumner. Like, what he did last night in that men's 800 final was special. 144, 53, 51. Our friend David Woods used to be the Indianapolis Star. He's freelancing now. I think he's writing for Dice-Stat. He looked it up. Not that many people. I should call John Keller right now, live on air. But, Rudisha did one time apparently go 52-50, which is insane.
Well, I want to give – I will give myself some credit for this, Robert, because we were watching this race together. The first lap is 53. And –
the camera loves you, John. Just focusing on you.
I know. I'm making the secret hand gestures that gets us to focus on me. But he goes through in 53, and then on the second lap, he's just opening up a gap on the field. And I'm looking at him like, these guys are good guys. He's gapping. It's not like this is some sort of joke, right? And he gets this gap on the home straight. I'm like, this guy, he's going to run 144. And you're like, there's no way he can run a 144. He just opened up in a 53. Like, do you realize what kind of negative split he'd have to do? And I'm thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, that makes sense. But I'm watching the race. I'm like, this is a 144 right now. He runs 144.26. So number 5 in NCAA history all time. He's the U.S. leader for 2023. He's the only American with the world championship standard. And I mean, I was debating with Gordon Mack and Flowchart. We were saying he was like, this was more impressive than Brazier's 143.55 in 2016. And I'm like, I don't know about that, but at the same time, Brazier had, I think it was Brandon McBride in that race, or maybe it was Marco A-Rock. It was someone basically setting the pace for him, and then he was just able to, kick off of it the second, the final 200 or whatever. This one, it was Sumner going to the front and negative splitting. Like, to me, negative splitting at 144.26 in that dramatic fashion, pretty close to running a 143 mid when you have a de facto pacemaker.
Definitely. And as a stats coaching guy, I knew this guy was a huge – he almost broke the high school record last year. His parents are top pedigree. But I was like very unimpressed with him indoors, and it was bothering me because I knew this is a guy that could split like 44, 45 and a 4x4. I knew what he did in high school. But indoors, he ran so far off the pack. Like, he doesn't look fast. Like, this is a guy that should be going out fast and, like, hanging on. Because he's got – but it's weird. Like, I was telling someone, like, his natural endurance must be sick. I'm like, did you ever run high school cross country? He's like,
Robert's obsessed with what's your longest run ever. That's like the question.
Yeah,
Parker asked him indoors. He remembered when you asked him outdoors because he was like, my answer's the same as it was indoors. I'm like, that's fine, Will.
It's about mileage.
I don't blame you.
He and Parker Valby run like 20 miles a week, right? It's about the same.
Yeah, Parker Valby runs on actual land like twice a week. She cross-trains like a demon, and she also is very injury-prone. And credit to her and her coaches figuring out something that works. But, yeah, not an ideal situation.
But credit to Pat Henner. This guy is kind of forced out of Georgetown, goes to Arizona and USC, and now Georgia. Coaching is a tough life. I've always said it's great when AD backs you, but then you have to leave in your middle of the – well, he doesn't. I don't think Pat has kids, but if you're 45 and have kids, are you going to move and then move? And he's like, I'm doing weights and blah, 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 and training, and just exceptional job. Like, indoors, he wasn't a complete athlete, and now amazing. Like, amazing how good he did. So Sumner was my biggest winner for the indoors. I mean, for the outdoor championships on the men's side. Well, yeah, no, he was. I mean, that's better than Bryce Hopwood. I think Bryce Hopwood. Like, would it shock me if he medaled at Worlds? I think
this year, yes. I mean,
because he's a true freshman, yes.
Let's remember 2016 Donovan Brazier. He runs that 143.5. He doesn't make it out of the first round of the Olympic trials. I think there's also something to be said. The USA's and Worlds, it's 3 rounds. It's not 2. You don't get the day between the rounds like you do at NCAA. It's like there's a learning curve there, but he has all the tools, I think, to be a fantastic 800-meter runner at the professional level down the road. Who knows if that's going to be?
He has the tools to go world champion.
I mean, it's certainly, and that wouldn't surprise me one day. And I will say, All in the Game shouted me out here in our comments. He noted when we picked our 2024 Olympic team earlier this year on the Let's Run podcast, I believe I was the only person to select Mr. Will Sumner to make the team. So this is like your Yard Naguse case in 2021 when you called him winning ACC cross and you said he's on the 1500 team. But I called this before his big breakout. I said Will Sumner on the 800 team. So I don't root for athletes, but I do root to be proven correct.
But mine wasn't even a big. I picked the NCAA 1500 champ to make the Olympic team. You picked one before the NCAA champ, although they almost won the high school record. Anyways, great job for Will. The biggest winner. Well, let's talk about other men's distance events. It was very interesting to me. It's like, why are we here, John? Why are we spending this money? We're sitting underneath a tent looking this way. The race is behind us. We can't see shit. I'm like texting the intern. If anything actually happens, Alex, let me know because I can't see the race.
Robert, they led us onto that little track area to watch. It wasn't – Robert's making it seem as like this was an impossible task. In Hayward Field, you're not even close to the track. This mix zone was right on the track. I didn't have a huge problem with how it was set up. Was it perfect? No.
We didn't. The first day wasn't. I didn't know I was allowed to just run out into the track to look at the scoreboard. But anyways, my internet did not really work very well. I could not watch on my phone, and I could not see the scoreboard or the track. So, anyways, it wasn't great. But it was very interesting to me. Washington's got all these milers, 7'8", sub-4 guys. And after the prelims, we asked them, like, this is the only type of question that you get from a Let's Run journalist. Like, who's the best person? Who's the most talented? And it was shocking to me. Like, several people said to us, Nathan Green. The coach, Andy Powell, a couple athletes, I think Sam Ellis. No, he barely runs.
Well, Andy was just like, he only runs like 4 or 5 times a week. I was like, what?
Yeah,
this guy who's going to win the NCAA 1500 title, he's only running 4 times a week?
He's the Parker Valby of the men's. We should have him and Parker Valby reproduce a baby. I will coach it. I will raise it. My wife and I want a second job. We will take their baby and raise it.
This really is LetsRun.com. Robert's had 2 IPAs. I probably shouldn't let him. Oh, I see it's a 3rd IPA, but this is a good thing that Robert didn't drive here and that he's going to be able to get an Uber.
Don't worry about me, folks. Don't worry.
Anyway, no. So Nathan Green, let's talk about this because he was fantastic at Pac-12. So, Robert, I like to talk about like positioning and tactics in the 1500. I like to make this big deal, but sometimes just the talent and the ability is so overwhelming that I'm just like, screw the tactics. Like it's like Asbel Kiprop. And I don't want to say Nathan Green's the next Asbel Kiprop, but remember when he was winning his world titles, he would just get in these horrible positions. He was just so much better than everyone else. It didn't matter. And
it helps Kiprop. It helps when you're
maybe on EPO. Yeah.
I would argue that I think he was probably not on EPO when his world. Oh shit! That's focusing on my face. It's like when he was probably good enough to be the world junior cross country champion, but he's a 1500 meter runner and he's on EPO.
Oh, that's Robert's most famous accomplishment. If you can win the world junior cross country title, as Faith Kipyegon did twice, as Latessa Bagide did twice, Robert will love you forever.
Shoe execs, do you need someone to tell you who to sign? It's not that hard. Like I will be your consultant.
I don't think shoe execs, they were never thinking about the runner who won the world junior cross
country title. Pay me $500,000 a year, and I will tell you who to sign.
Okay, but getting back to Nathan Green at Pac-12s, like I said, he ran 3:42 and he closed in 51. And I'm just like, you're closing in 51 in a 3:42 race. I mean, how do you beat that? It's very difficult to do. And we saw in the NCAA final on Friday, Nathan Green did not have the best positioning. best position. I thought the best tactical race was Adam Spencer of Wisconsin. He put himself in the right spots, and he was leading at the bell. He did get passed by Wascom on the back straight. He went by on the inside. People were saying, "Oh, you're showing Wascom." I don't know. I thought he found enough space. Didn't look like it was a foul to me. Anyway, he gets us the lead at 200 to go. I'm like, Spencer is running this exactly how you would draw it up. He maybe shouldn't have gotten passed by Wascom, but whatever. Nathan Green, meanwhile, he's just storming in on the outside. He ran the entire final turn on the lane boundary between lanes 1 and 2. So he's running significant extra distance, maybe 5 or 6 meters compared to Spencer. It didn't matter. He was better than everyone else. He still closed at 51.88, even with running the extra distance. He was the fittest guy in the field. Doesn't matter how much he's running. He was fitter than everyone else. He had the best kick. He won.
Could he make the U.S. team?
I mean, if we get a U.S. final like we did last year, I mean, John Davis was 6th at NCAAs or something. He finished 2nd at USA's. But this year, we have better guys in there. I think if it's tactical, I mean, do we really think how many guys are going to be able to run faster than 51.8 on their last lap in a 3:42 race? Coupeteer, Hobbs, Kessler, Yard, Goose. These guys are all good.
Hobbs, Kessler.
I mean, they can kick for sure. But I'm just saying,
Nathan easily can do this.
Nathan Green will be in the conversation, I think. But yeah, USA is going to be great. I can't wait.
So Green's one of my biggest losers.
Why? He won the race.
I mean, excuse me, winners. John, the IP hitting.
Okay.
But biggest losers, and I like this guy.
Do not say Joe Wascom is a loser. No.
Joe Wascom.
No.
You should have gone pro. My new thing, I don't like people going pro. And my ideal world would be obligated to stay 4 years in college, and we would never go pro. We'd go pro out of high school or stay in college, at least for 3 years. But, John, we'd saw several shoe execs. And I said, well, I wouldn't pay anyone for that. I wouldn't pay $1 for this person, very famous American, who's a little bit old. And they're like, oh, I'm their agent. I'm like, you're a great agent because you got that person money.
That was actually a hilarious moment.
I was like, oh, shit.
I was just like, I saw this car crash coming because I knew who this person represented. And Robert's just like trashing his client, essentially. It was
See, this is why John only has – I've been out – inside story, folks. I've been out with John. We normally work at this hamburger joint at night till like 2 a.m. John will have one beer. I know why. He's had 1.5. He seems intoxicated, folks. But yeah, it was a true story. I was just like, oh yeah. But because I told another agent, I was like, I'm kind of jaded. If you can't win a world title in my mind, I'm like, I wouldn't pay you money.
All right.
But no,
can I give you the
Joe Wascom. I'm like, look, as an agent or as a shoe company, you're trying to figure out who's the best, who's got the most potential. How about everyone on the Washington team? There's 8 step 4 minute guys. There's Sam Ellis, my Princeton boy, who was DQ from the end. Like, why would you sign the one that's not better than now? He may not be able to, if you're injured, I guess you can't.
Can I make the case for Joe Wascom here? First of all, he got 2nd in this race. You're acting as if this is some colossal failure. He was 1st last year and 2nd this year. Has his stock really dropped all that much? Robert, how much is he going to make last year? He wins NCAAs. You know what his PR was? It was like 339. He did not have a fast, if that. He did not have a fast PR. I don't think he was going to be getting some monstrous, and he didn't even qualify for the USA meet last year.
So as an NCAA champion?
As an NCAA champion.
Change the rule. Max Siegel.
So I don't think he was going to get some monstrous offer. He left all this money on the table. And what I saw, if you were watching this race closely, Wascom, he took the lead on the back straight. He made a mistake in that he allowed himself to get passed by his teammate Luke Hauser on the outside and Spencer on the inside. They kind of went right around him. That is the point where I would say, okay, you got to defend your position better. When you get to the front on the last lap, you got to defend it.
It was weird. Did he get tripped?
He said, I told him after the race, he just said that was he was like, look, I take the blame on that. That was my bad.
280 meters to go. He was like right there, and he just like.
Yeah. So he got swallowed up. At that point, I'm just like, okay, he's pretty much done. They're just, going to spit him out the back. He had his shot and lost it. But no,
he came back.
He comes back on the home straight. That guy, he's a winner. He's got the heart of a champion.
It reminds me of, I love Wascom for some reason, like the brand name again. Leo Manzano. And I've known Princeton. I've been praising Alex Kidd. We had a great meet at Harvard. Amazing meet. But I've known Jason Vigilante, since Princeton coach, since college. One of my best friends, Chris Lear, author of Running with the Buffaloes and Sub 4. You ever read those books, people? Particularly Running with the Buffaloes. It's a cult classic.
I think everyone who's listening to this thing at 2 a.m. East Coast time on a Saturday night has probably read
It's
Running
not
with the
true.
Buffaloes.
Lieutenant Colonel Chris Myas from New Zealand. Have you read Running with the Buffaloes? Please post in the comments. But what was I saying, John? What was I talking about?
I don't really know what you were talking about. You said that Jason Vigilante, and then you kind of went on a tangent.
But who were we talking about before that?
We're talking about Waska.
Yeah, so I remember back when I had my racist tendencies thinking that no one in America could win anything at the global level. Because I was raised in the 90s. We were terrible. But I remember talking to Jason Vigilante one time about Worlds or something in Manzano, and he's like, I was like, Americans are happy to make the final. He said something about win it. I said, win it? I said, are you crazy? He's like, no, if Leo can sniff the win, he will win it. He's a competitive. It just goes over. He's very competitive. He's great clothes. And Leo never won Olympic gold, but he won.
He got Olympic silver.
Yeah,
in a race where Tafiq Boukloufi was the champion. We'll just leave it at that.
So, Leo, by the way, I bumped into Leo walking into the meet the first day. It was great to see him.
Texas legend, 2-time NCAA champ.
And every 55-year-old housewife is wearing hookahs nowadays, thanks to Leo Manzano. So I told him that. He was pleased I said that. But I was stunned that he said this. He's like, yeah, it's just because Leo wasn't great at the time trials, but somewhat tactical race, he's going to do it. And watching him, he's got a great kick. He does. And
he does. I know. I think it's interesting because Nathan Green, talking to him afterwards with these injury issues, he was like, yeah, I ran 70 miles a week, or I ran a 70-mile week in cross country, and my body just couldn't handle it.
Green, you're saying, not Waskin.
Sorry, Nathan Green, correct. He had this conversation, and he told it with Andy Powell, and they were like, we're really honest. It's just like, I can't do this. My body keeps breaking down. I can't handle it. We're going to have to change something up. And they did. And now he only runs 4 or 5 miles a week. He runs 55. He's like, he can't run more than 55 miles a week without getting hurt, essentially. And I look at the guy's talent. I mean, he ran 50 point in the open 400 in high school. He was a 4-flat high school miler. He's an NCAA champion now as a true sophomore in the 1500. That's pretty rare for an American guy, especially from someone from Idaho.
Another talent is the ability to be trained. Can you handle the workload that you need?
Right, but
because one thing, John, we're joking about this, is if there was some coaching or technological ability to keep the human body healthy, right? An inside secret, it would be used on Jerry Schumacher's son, who was injured all the time, and Tom Ratcliffe, the agent's son, who was also injured all the time. And I talked to Tom Ratcliffe today. Tom Ratcliffe Sr., who's an agent, and he actually swears to me Daniel Coleman was clean, which is good to know. But I was like, yeah, I realize I've been thinking about this, Tom. Your son's always injured. Jerry Schumacher's son's always injured. If the coaches knew how to get people injury prone, they would have given it to these two people, and they didn't.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of silliness here, but my point.
It's not silliness.
My point on Nathan Green is the same point I have on Parker Valby. Is these are two outrageously talented individuals. My worry is that as a professional athlete, their potential could be limited by their ability to continue absorbing training and to stay healthy.
So I just said it wasn't silly. I'm just saying there's no
you think there's some sort of magical device that
I'm saying there's not
has been keeping secret from us.
I'm saying there is no magical.
Yeah, I don't think people thought that was the case anyway.
I never broke 30 minutes. My identical genetic equal ran 28:06. It's not because I drank too many IPAs. It's just, I don't know, it's a small mechanical difference.
Okay.
John, what does this mean? Is this a soccer thing?
Quick recap of City's treble, yes. You know the Champions League final was today, right?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, Manchester City won it. They won the treble, first English team to do it since Manchester United in 1999. I'll give you your recap, Rufus. I'm not happy about it. I'm sorry. One team shouldn't be able to just win everything. Man City, they have the...
Wait, they won the Premier League and what else?
And the FA Cup.
What is the FA Cup?
It's the world's oldest knockout competition. Brighton lost heartbreaking fashion in semifinals. Thanks for bringing up that memory. I just don't like this was the one thing City had never won, and I just don't like it that they've now won everything. It's boring. They've won 6 of the last 7 Premier League titles, or 5 of the last 6, something like that. It's just they win the Premier League every year, but at least they, you can't have this, and now they have everything. Sorry, they have great players and they have a fantastic manager, but I'm not happy for them.
What?
I don't like it when one team just wins everything. My Brighton team, we make the Europa League, and I view this as a monumental lifetime accomplishment.
I'm the difference.
They're just collecting Premier League trophies and throwing them on the side of the road.
I make no sense. I like the dynasties. I wanted the Patriots, John. Your beloved Patriots to go undefeated. I also like the underdogs. I like greatness and underdogs. All right. With Britton's shin issue, we're going to read comments from the YouTube. With Britton's shin issue, should she run the flat 400 or 400 hurdles? I would debate just bagging it all. But why would a shoe company want to pay for 6 months to bag it all? But which is easier to medal? You've got Sydney and Delilah to beat in the 400 hurdles.
Delilah, who has been way off the pace this year, by the way.
And in the 400,
and we don't even know what event Sydney's running.
No, you got Femke Bol. If you're injured, you're not going to beat Sydney and Femke Bol. And the 400 hurdles.
We don't know what event Sydney's running though.
Oh, I'm talking about 400 hurdles.
We don't know what event
Sydney's running. You might just go pure 400.
I think Bobby Kersey said she's only running one event at Worlds.
Well, then why wouldn't it be the 4? Oh, just because she wants to do something different. I think I go 400. You got Paulino, and who else can you not beat? Yeah. So all in the game, Sydney. I'm going 400, but I might just shut it down.
I wouldn't. We would need to know how serious these senior issues are.
Tyson, I agree with you. No more soccer talk is boring. If your name is Tyson Psycho, I will send you $50.
Britton Wilson, so she didn't talk to the press today. She was, pretty devastated after failing to win either event. And we have said, she said after the prelims, she's had these certain issues the whole year. That's why she was running the 800 start of the year indoors. And I do wonder, she's run all of these races really hard. Like the West prelims, she ran quickly. Her prelims in Austin, she ran quickly. She didn't really have a reason to do so. And I'm like, oh, this is because she must be great. And now I'm like, oh, did that actually do her in? I don't really know.
If you back off 1 second, you can't back off 2 or 3. It means make a huge difference. Whatever. It's crazy that we've been on this show. Oh, my God. I wanted to go 30 minutes. It's an hour 7. We're having so much. This is why I can bitch and complain about being at the meet until 2 a.m. every night. I'm old. But it's fun, John. It's fun. And we haven't even talked.
We need to talk about the guy who won the NCAA double.
I know.
Kai Robinson.
We have not mentioned his damn name. And the Aussies are watching this live. Kai Robinson of Stanford, Australia wins the 10 and the 5. And Kenneth Rooks wins the men's steeple. Steeple real quick. I was very impressed with Rooks. He looked fantastic over the last lap. He's got a shot at Worlds. It was interesting. Duncan Hamilton.
More than a shot. I mean, look at the current landscape in the U.S. steeple. Hillary Moore, broken foot, probably out for USAs. Evan Jager hasn't raced a steeple all season. And the guy they might have to contend with, Robert, is someone you've been singing his praises for a very long time. Anthony Rotich, 3-time NCAA champ.
You're back, boy.
At UTEP. He runs his first PB in 10 years. 8:16 in Paris on Friday. So it could be him and Rooks and Hamilton. I think Isaac Update's still around. Dan Mahalski, friend of LetsRun.
Oh, my God. What if it comes down to Mahalski and my boy at the end?
And Rotich. Oh, wow. I think Jager might be there still.
But they're both military men. They're both supporting this country.
Also, speaking of military men, Lieutenant Colonel Chris Myass says, sorry, guys, old family name, it's French, which confirms to me this is actually a fake. There's no way that's his real name.
It's brilliant. He's having a good time.
But you had us going for more than an hour, Chris. So
and one of my favorite human beings, I think, is also on here. This is Tyson Sacco. Tyson, I should have invited you to my wedding, but you should have invited me to yours, so we're even. Damn it. But maybe he didn't invite me to his because I didn't invite him to mine.
Whose wedding was first?
Mine. Well, how, John? Think about the logic. What you just asked didn't make any sense.
What do you mean? You said he didn't invite you to his wedding.
Because I didn't invite me to his.
Oh yeah. I wasn't listening closely enough. Sorry.
Anyways, 10,000. I wonder who we thought was going to win. Oh, we thought Dylan Jacobs, right?
I thought Dylan Jacobs would win. Yeah, he was my pick.
So someone asked earlier, who was the biggest loser?
You don't need to scroll out to find the comment. Just someone asked the question.
I don't see it.
Do you think
Dylan Jacobs, in terms of value, is Dylan Jacobs or Katelyn Tuohy? Interesting question. So Dylan Jacobs, the defending 10,000 meter champion who won the 5K indoors,
yep,
doesn't have a good day in the 10K and finishes.
I mean, I don't even know if it's worth pointing out the exact. He's 14th.
So
more than a minute back from
doesn't win the 5, doesn't run the 5 today. And I said, Dylan, I saw him. He's like, this is often the case. He's like, my back's been hurting me a lot, or bothering me. He's a lot since a few weeks, and I decided I couldn't run. I said, has it impacted your workouts? He said, yes. So he didn't talk about the back when he lost, but today, and I'm like fine with that. Like, this guy's got a great close. Like when he won that 5,000 indoors, I'm like, this guy looked amazing to me. Like he's gonna win the 3. No, he didn't. This shows you how hard it is just to do the 5 and the 3. It was interesting when we talk about what was the stat about people who've won the cross country and the 10,000? Or
yeah, you would think people would do it every year. If you win cross country, you're probably going to win the 10K. No, it's only happened like 6 or 7 times in history.
Because who did it? Well, Hicks didn't do it, so why are we even talking about this stat? What are we going with this stat?
Well, because Hicks had the possibility of doing this. We wrote this as a preview before the race started.
Yeah, so it's just hard. Like, there's so many good runners, and it's really hard to dominate, which makes you appreciate it's like a bell curve, and the best person in the world, these Mo Farahs, the Gebrselassie, and the Bekele's that are just winning for years on it. It's pretty ridiculous. But anyways, Jacobs, doesn't do in the 10. Back problem. I'm like, fine, just don't do it. I still think people will sign him. Very talented guy, but Kai Robinson, like, he dominated the 10. A huge kick, kind of like, why wouldn't he win the 5? And he did. Just destroyed everybody, right?
Yeah, I was actually surprised how little resistance he encountered on that last lap, considering the pace. He ran 28:10 to win the 10K. He ran 14:04 to win the 5K. So basically the same pace for the overall race. His close, he closed in 54 to win the 10 and 55 to win the 5K. In 55, he had a gap. It wasn't even really that close on the last lap. There was just no one with him. It's not like these guys aren't good runners. I mean, Graham Blanks, he's had a great year for Harvard. Jackson Sharp, I think, quite a talented runner for Wisconsin. He had a good run indoors in the 3K, another solid third-place finish here in the 5K. But, I was looking at this. I was kind of surprised that Robinson dominated to such a degree. But after that 10K, I was like, well, are they really going to be able to drop him? It would have required someone running sort of a Parker Valley type race, right, where they're going out and really trying to run fast. No one did that. So, yeah, huge meet for Kai Robinson. I do wonder now, Robert, not to get ahead of ourselves. If Robinson and Hitz come back for cross, we're getting Leo and Lex Young heading to Stanford. Is 2023, 20 years after the Stanford Dream Team, is it finally the year where Stanford wins the NCAA title, or is NAU just going to, show up and get it done once again?
One of my number one maxims in life is everyone wants to be a victim. I was like 10 years old. I'm a white male. They're out to get me. They're not going to let me get into Yale because my daddy went there. I have to go to Princeton.
They're not going to let me get into Yale because my daddy went there. I think Robert, how many beers have you had? That's how it works at these schools.
No, it doesn't work that way. They discriminate against the white male.
Sure it doesn't.
My theory is everybody wants to be, John, most people, except for you, because you live in a kick-ass sports town. They want to root for the underdog. And everyone wants to be an underdog. Everyone wants to be a victim. Oh, they're out to get me, this and that. I'm a victim, blah, blah, blah. And how am I relating this to running? What's the
Robert,
trend?
I don't know where you're going.
No, you're
the one driving this train.
What were you talking about?
I was talking about Kai Robinson.
Yes. Stanford. So I used to hate Stanford. Does anyone know what the Grote poll is? John, do you know?
Of course. I read the Grote poll when I was in college. Loved it.
Ryan Grote. I think it might be Grote, actually. Another friend of Chris Lear's in high school. Like, he made this poll, and he hated Stanford. Stanford is like everybody. Like, I used to say this at Cornell. Like, the kid was really good at running and was smart, like really good. Chris Derrick, I said, you're going to go to Stanford because you won't have to pay. But if they're pretty good, they're going to go to – if they're a step below that, they're going to go to Harvard and Princeton because, sorry, Dad, y'all sucks. And then if they're a step below that, they might go to me and Cornell, and they'll use my superior coaching to dominate that movie. But it's just – Stanford used to have too much talent. Villanova was such a good coach. Like, they're going to win. So we'd root against them. But now, like, they haven't won. Ricardo came from Iona, the coach. I view them almost as the underdog now. So I'm tired of the NAU dynasty. Stanford, Kai, please go back. Everybody else, Hicks, go back, etc. Like, why doesn't Kai have an NIL? If Hicks has an NIL, Kai needs one too.
Well, I guess I was going to say Hicks is American, but he has an American accent, but he actually represents Great Britain internationally. So maybe he will have an NIL deal after this. But Hicks also has like a YouTube channel. He already was, on social media. I've never seen a Kai Robinson social media account. So maybe.
Thank God. Is this true? Craig Mottram is the Dathan Ritzenheim of Down Under, and he's coaching an OAC team?
Yeah, you didn't hear about this? OAC Oceania, coached by Craig Mottram.
All right, let's talk about. I mean, you go to these meets, and sometimes like there's no doubt these people are good coaches. like.
Well, you seem to still think there might be a doubt about Andy Powell being a good coach.
No,
even though he's coached.
I joke with you because there's not that, like, some coaches, John will text them and they'll immediately write back. Andy Powell is one of them, the Massachusetts boys, etc. I talked to Andy the other day. We had a nice talk. There's certain coaches I talk to, there's certain coaches not to. I bridge the gap, John. And I'm amazed by Andy because, and his wife,
Marisa.
I say Marika, like Shalane. But his son's not like a sophomore phenom in high school in America here. He's done all this coaching in Oregon and Washington and his wife while raising a family. Like, what I thought was true in college coaching was when you have kids, like, the coaches have a 10-year gap. They're not as good as they should be, but Andy's doing great. So he's done a great job. But why would I say whoa?
You've been talking about Robert. All right, I think we've learned that Robert's limit 2 IPAs functional.
No,
3 IPAs loses his train of thought after 5 bloods.
It's nothing to IPAs. It has to be my age. I'm almost 40 years of age, John. It's 1:20 in the morning.
Okay,
I'm almost 50.
But no, you were talking about coaches. I would say, obviously, look, we know Andy Powell can coach. He's always been able to coach milers pretty well. But it's pretty ridiculous. We didn't give him enough credit. They went 1-2 in the 1500. First school to do that since Oregon in 2010. Guess who was coaching that crew? Andy Powell. Though I do think Vin Lanano was the lead coach on Waiting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say was
they also won 3 straight titles with 3 different guys. 1500 mile, 1500, really impressive.
Incredible job. But I was going to criticize him, I think. I was kidding. But Sophie O'Sullivan, number 1 woman in the NCAA. Sonia O'Sullivan still.
Well, that's Marisa Powell coaches her, not Andy Powell.
Dead last in the 1500. But I was actually saying this, John, I said this to you. I was like, if I'm Andy Powell and Marisa?
Yes.
Powell. I use this as the number 1 recruiting tool for the rest of my life. Sonia O'Sullivan, who's a world champion. Nick Beddoe, who's one of the top coaches in the world and is a super agent. Where do they send their daughter to college? I don't know if they sent her. Maybe she chose. But where does she choose to go to college? Was Washington. And I think this is a testament. They've done a great job. And so I talked to him 2 nights ago, or last night, I guess. whatever, 2 days. And it was really interesting to me because when I was at Cornell, like I prided myself on the walk-ons. We had 30 guys in the cross-country roster. That was our limit. And Andy at Washington has like 30 guys in the whole track and field team. At Cornell, we had like 75. And I used to look down upon. We had a guy that couldn't walk on in Michigan and was a star for us. Now I get it. I mean, I understood it after about 5 years of coaching. Like you can have a guy walk on, and then maybe they run 150 or 149, and they get like fifth in the Big Ten. But is that really worth it? Because you're going to have to let like 10 of them on, have one guy do that, and the 5 of them might be disgruntled, and then they're going to like tear your team down. So Andy's like, look, we have like, I forgot what the Pac-12 limit is. Like we have like 26 guys in the Pac-10s. We have 31 guys in the team. So everyone is very important to me. So I used to be like appalled by the concept of limiting the walk-ons, and now I'm all for it. Like it makes sense to me. Like I hate the coaches that discard talent. Like everyone that gets on that team, like my two best friends in life, Chris Lear and Victoria, they were injured in college, and the coach is just sort of like, oh, you're injured. We'll see you when you get healthy. And to me, that's wrong. Like that's your dream as an athlete. So these people that were like kind of mocking for being 25-year-old over emotional, no, you've devoted a lot of time and a lot of effort to get to this meet to excel and do well. So congratulations. But John, you asked it on the recap. Will Nico Young ever win an NCAA title?
I don't think I asked that. That was someone else on our staff. But will he ever win an NCAA title? You know, I think his best shot is cross, because Nico Young is what I think of when I think of a cross-country run. He was pretty close this past year. The problem is if Hicks is coming back and if Robinson is coming back, that's going to be tough. But will he ever win one? I think that the odds are no. That's the most likely outcome, because winning an NCAA title is very hard. It's even harder when you can't kick, which Nico Young can't really kick. That's why he took off with a mile to go in the 5K. Because
but his mistake was the same as Tuohy. He was too fast, too soon. They probably would have won anyways. But, I know what I was saying, John. It's all come to me. Sorry.
Okay.
I think the Palace are great coaches. And it was very interesting talking to Andy. I mean, his wife is the head of the program. He said, he said, I was joking. I was like, when Oregon was looking for a new coach, they consider you to be the head of the program because Jerry Schumacher's there. He said, I don't think so, but I would never go back. I said, why? He said, well, our AD here is amazing. All she cares about is the student-athlete experience, that they're happy. But what I was going to say was they had Silvio. It's amazing. Every coach is going to have failure. Silvio Sola, number 1 seed in the 1500, she finishes last place. And then we have the same thing. Like, I thought the person who's going to win the 5,000, we haven't mentioned their name over an hour and 20 minutes, was Brian Fay. Brian Fay won the 5,000 and 10,000 at Pac-12, beating both Charles Hicks and Kai Robinson in the 5,000. Right?
He might have, yeah. Kai Robinson, I think, ran the 1,500 and finished second, so I think he might have been doubling back. Like, Kai Robinson finished second behind the NCAA champion in the 1,500, so that maybe should have clued us in that he was going to be pretty tough to beat in a kick in the 5K and 10K. Yes, that's correct.
Pull that up.
I mean, what do you want? I'm telling you what the results
Kai Robinson beat all the West Washington milers except for one. Like, who was behind him?
Well, I mean, Joe Wascom was behind him, but Wascom wasn't Wascom at that meet. You know, not everyone. Luke Hauser wasn't the Luke Hauser we saw tonight. Sorry, this weekend. They have these 6-week training blocks sometimes.
But what I'm saying is, even great programs have really talented athletes bomb. Sophia Sullivan, you can't deny it, bombed, right, John? That's a disaster.
She bombed in the final. She looked great in the prelim, bombed in the final.
And then
Kaylee DeLay was not as good as she was last year at Yale.
Kaylee DeLay, second at Yale, doesn't score tonight. This is why I'm saying, like, the number one attribute of a college coach is to recruit well. That's your job. You got to also be a good coach. And he's done both of them have done an amazing job. But Brian Fay, it was shocking to me, John. Like, I'm like, okay, he killed the Stanford guys in the Pac-12. Of course he's going to win NCAAs, particularly one of the Stanford guys who wins the 10K. And he doesn't even score in the 5,000, 14, 11, 9th place. But you said to me, Robert, why did you pick Brian Fay in the preview? I said, well, because he's a 352 miler that won the Pac-12 and the 10,000. They can't drop him, so why wouldn't he outkick them? And you said, I'm not impressed by his NCAA performances. And you were right. So some of these Stanford guys, we heard the rumor that one of them ran 115 miles during the Pac-12 meet. Didn't care about the Pac-12. Just train through it and win the big one. So it's very competitive, fascinating meet, cool stuff. Aussies, we thank you for watching us live. The Kiwis down under.
The Aussies had a good meet. I mean, considering the percentage of Aussies that are in the NCAA versus the percentage of Americans, for Jackson Sharp third, Izzy Bott Doyle second, Ty Robinson double victories. I mean, it's a pretty good weekend for the Aussies.
Now, Jack Bull joins us. How's the heat in person? Faye looked cooked. Now, Faye's from Ireland. I imagine he's training in Washington. He's never hot there. He's not used to this mid-80s and high humidity. What was he like in person? Now, I'm born and raised in Texas. Now, my brother and I were terrible heat runners, by the way. But, hey, I wore this great LetsRun.com long sleeve shirt. I wore slacks. I just want to look professional. I have an image to upkeep. The venture capitalists that are looking to buy us out and shut this down and make us paywall and everything. No, just kidding. But the heat, I mean, when you're sitting typing as an old nerd like us, when the breeze picks up 20 miles per hour, it's not hot. I'm like, there's a difference between not feeling hot when you're sitting in the stands and trying to run a 5,000 or 10,000.
Right. The other thing I would say is these races were being held when the sun was down, which makes a difference. But yeah, it was hot and humid. Definitely 10K.
Hotter than, I think, almost than Tokyo, wouldn't you say?
Tokyo was miserable. I think the sun was setting. I'm trying to remember.
But Tokyo's a huge stadium, so there's no sun.
Maybe it was because of the COVID protocols. I had to walk to and from the stadium every day, which is like 2 miles each way. Tokyo felt hotter than the evenings in Austin when I've been here this weekend.
Yeah. So.
Okay. All right, Robert. It is currently 1:30 a.m. Central Time on Sunday morning. God.
I'm going to be asleep.
I have a flight that's leaving in 8 hours so we need to finish our recaps and publish this podcast. So we're going to say goodbye to our online viewers. Thank you to anyone around the world for staying up for our coverage of the 2023 NCAA championships. Love talking.
John, we've never, apparently, a viewer at 1:30 a.m. has told us Isama Sunga has run another 983, but windy again. So we've never had a high school.
I tweeted about this. Yeah, we've never had a high school sub 10. Isama Sunga is clearly in sub 10 shape, and yet his two best races of the year, he's run 983 and he's had 2.6 wind in both of them. He needs to fly out somewhere, and we need somewhere with a legal wind so this guy can actually become the first high schooler under 10 seconds.
John, supporters, club members, we love you. I thought this should be a 30-minute show, but I want to have. What are we going to talk about on Tuesday?
I'm sure we'll find. I mean, we maybe talk about Britton Wilson, considering you didn't even want to talk about her in the entire show, and she's one of the biggest freaking storylines of the whole meet.
What is there to say? She got beat by a super stud in the 400, and then
she's supposed to be a super stud in the 400.
She's running with stress fracture. I would have been better than my brother if I didn't have the damn stress shot.
All right. I'm sure. Well, we did have these world records in Paris to talk about as well. That you weren't on the podcast, Robert. You might need to watch those. So I'm sure we'll be fine for topics on Tuesday. Make sure you're tuning into that one as well. But for now, we'll bid you good night from Austin, Texas, and enjoy your Sundays, everyone.